How should we be thinking about this? Like, is it, markets or reporters trying to really always get just that nugget piece of news?
Yes, well, certainly there's a lot of that going on, I would say. But no, I guess I would, to put a more constructive spin on it, the markets and market participants are always wondering what we're going to do. They're always wondering what we're thinking, and when market moves happen, that's really a constructive thing. It's never going to be exactly what we're thinking, but nonetheless, it's constructive that the market in effect is doing your work for you if it correctly understands your reaction function. So that's maybe a more constructive way to.
And is it correctly understanding what you're saying right now?
So I would say, by and large, I think since last fall when we pivoted to raise rates and get where we are now. Since then, markets have been pretty well aligned. I wouldn't bless any particular day, for example, but pretty well aligned with where we're going. And right now, the market pricing is pretty close to where the summary of economic projections from, 2 weeks ago was. So my colleagues and I wrote down numbers for the end of this year for our policy rate between 3 and 3.5%. And markets are broadly right in that space somewhere. And then for next year, between 3.5% and 4%. So broadly speaking, I think it's working. And everything we say in terms of forward guidance, to your point, is always going to be conditional on the things that happen between now when you give the guidance and when the actual event happens. And sometimes markets can forget about the conditionality part.
But is there a problem actually with forward guidance in this kind of environment because it gets priced in straight away? So it feels sometimes like markets lead and central banks follow because of the forward guidance.
It doesn't really feel that way at all from where I'm sitting. It feels quite the opposite. And no, as I said, I think people will look back on this period and say that we were able to have financial conditions tighten quite substantially. And we've only had 3 meetings at which we raised rates. Nonetheless, the forward rate curve is pricing in a rate path that looks a whole lot like the summary of economic projections that my colleagues and I submitted in June. So that's a good thing. That's the market understanding and finding credible what we're writing down. Now, of course, it's all highly conditional, but nonetheless, I'd say that's a positive thing.